no fucks could be found. Hey, this is Megan in the restricted section. Today I'm going to be doing my October wrap-up. So, I read a total of 6 books in October, and a couple of them I've already kind of talked about, so for those ones I won't give a whole lot of info, but I'm pretty excited because I ended up taking care of 2 of my Read Harder challenges in October. So the first one was read a food memoir, and for that I read Heat by Bill Buford, and this is about Bill Buford worked in Mario Batali's kitchen in one of his restaurants, so it's kind of his experience doing that, and then also just his experience with kind of falling in love with being a chef and wanting to learn about cooking and all of that stuff. This is not a bad book, and it's not poorly written at all in my opinion. However, it did make me realize how little I care about this topic. I really struggled to get through this because I don't give a shit. Like one chapter would be about like his experience in the kitchen in the restaurant, and then the next chapter would be about Mario Batali, and then the next chapter would be like he would get stuck on a certain aspect of cooking. Like there's at one point he gets pretty fascinated with pasta, and so there's just like a chapter about the history of pasta in Italy, and I just could not bring myself to give a fuck. So I struggled to get through this, but I don't think it's because it was a bad book or anything like that. I think it's just because I don't have any interest in this area at all. And it were not for the Read Harder challenge, I probably would never read a food memoir. So it the challenge accomplished, I guess, what it set out to accomplish, in that I read something I wouldn't normally read. So there is that. The next book I read was also for the Read Harder challenge, and this one I read for read a nonfiction book about feminism or feminist themes. And so for that I read Asking for It, The Alarming Rise of Rape Culture and What We Can Do About It by Kate Harding. I'm really glad I read this book. It depressed me and pissed me off at the same time, but also like it was very enlightening, and I'm just really glad that I read it. I think rape culture is still incredibly prevalent, and I would highly recommend this book. If you're looking for like a good feminist read, I would highly recommend this. I think Kate Harding made a lot of very valid points, and I think she called to attention a lot of really important things about rape culture and about why it prevails and how certain things in our society encourage it to continue. So the rest of the books I read in October were all by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and I've talked about a couple of his books already, so I won't go into too much detail, but I read 4 of his books in October. I read The Shadow of the Wind, The Angel's Game, and The Prisoner of Heaven, which are the books of the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. The 4th one has not come out yet, but those are the 3 that are out. And I believe I talked about the first one already, and I was reading the second one at the time when I talked about the first one. So basically these books are set in Gothic Barcelona, and it's they're all situated around the Spanish Civil War and in that time period. So the second book takes place before the first book, and I guess it kind of stands alone, so you don't really necessarily have to read the first novel to understand the second, but there are characters from the first novel involved in the second, if that makes sense. And then the third book kind of ties the first 2 together and explains how they're correlated and all of that. So I'll link my video where I talked about The Shadow of the Wind down below if you guys want to check it out. So I won't talk about it too much here, but I will say that I think the first book is definitely the best one. I liked the first and the third books the best, but I liked and appreciated the second book more after I read the third. So I think Carlos Ruiz Zafón's writing is really beautiful, and I thought the stories were really well done, and they were dark and tragic, and there were parts that were funny, and there were characters that I really fell in love with. So I really enjoyed that series, and I'm looking forward to reading the 4th book in it. And then I also read The Prince of Mist by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and I talked about that one in the same video I talked about The Shadow of the Wind. So I won't go too much into detail there, but that one is like I think it's like a middle grade or YA novel. But yeah, it's really dark and creepy, and it's about this coastal town that has secrets, and it has this character who's kind of like a devil character, and he strikes deals with people kind of to their disaster. So that book was kind of delightfully creepy. There were a couple of parts that really creeped me out, and I was surprised at how creepy it was. But it's still very appropriate for younger audience, I would say. So, and again, it was really beautifully written, and I didn't like the characters in that book as much as I liked them in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series, but they were still pretty good, like well done characters, pretty solid characters. So those are the books I read in October. Oh, I also listened to an audiobook in October. It was a book that was on my TBR, and I'm having a really hard time deciding if I should mark it as read now because I didn't read it. I listened to it, and it's not the same thing. And that was an interesting experience for me. That was also for my Read Harder challenge, because one of the challenges is to listen to an audiobook that won the Audie Award. And so I listened to Not My Father's Son by Alan Cumming, and he actually reads it in the recording. So I thought that was kind of cool to hear his work in his own voice. And that was kind of his memoir about his relationship with his father, and how as a child his father was quite abusive, and how that affected him as an adult, and kind of how he dealt with that and made peace with it. I did enjoy the book, like the content I enjoyed. I thought it was pretty raw and vulnerable, but I didn't really like the medium through which I received the content. I think I would have rather have read the book. And again, I mean, without having done the Read Harder challenge, I probably would never have listened to an audio book outside of going on a road trip. So this was, kind of expanded my horizons there. And I borrowed it from the library, and you can digitally loan things, which I had never done before. So that was a cool experience too. So it was not without merit, but it was quite difficult. And I still don't know if I should mark it as read or not on my TBR. Let me know what you think. I know that not everyone agrees with me with my opinion about audiobooks, but let me know what you think. That is, so if you count that one, that would be 7 books in October. But as far as books I actually read, it would be 6. So that was my October. I'm pretty pleased with it overall. So that's it for me today. As usual, there will be some links down below where you can find Sue and I elsewhere on social media. If you are not already subscribed to the restricted section, you can do that. Just hit the subscribe button. We're pretty cool. And yeah, I will see you next time.